Okay, I think we have now enough people and more people are going to be joining in. So thank you again to Gianpaolo, who is joining from Geneva, Switzerland. We're very excited for the continuation of this joint webinar series between CMS, the Carbon Monitoring System from NASA, and the U.S. Greenhouse Gas Center. Today we have Gianpaolo Balsamo from the director of WMO. And before moving to that, to the talk from Gianpaolo, and we're going to hear from Chana Compley from the U.S. Greenhouse Gas Center, I want to give a minute to George Hurt, who is the CMS Science Team Lead at the University of Maryland, for a brief welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much. Welcome, Gianpaolo, for the CMS Policy Speaker Series together with the Joint Carbon Center. We really look forward to your presentation. As you know, NASA Carbon Monitoring System is charged with trying to prototype methods for measuring, monitoring, and reporting carbon in all of its different places around the world. And we seek to partner with stakeholders from the beginning to develop like the most relevant new science products. And more recently, we've entered our third phase, over 100 projects doing this around the world. And I'm very excited to bring in experts from other systems who are doing related work to hear what is going on. So we're very anxious to have you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, George. And just so you're aware, for the people online, we have several activities and meetings of CMS coming on in the next couple of months. So we have the CMS Science Team meeting and stakeholder workshop that is going to happen in Washington, D.C. And that's going to be, I think, September 17 to the 19th. And then we have a CMS stakeholder workshop in Brazil that is going to be focused in vegetation, carbon, and fire monitoring. And that's being led by CMS PI, Carlos Silva. And that's going to happen August 13 to the 16th. If you want more information, because there's many other publications that are coming out, other activities that we're involved, you can go to our website, carbon.nasa.gov, and there you can find information about the different projects and activities that we're involved. I want to now pass it along to my colleague, Chana Compley, who is the lead of stakeholder engagement for the U.S. Greenhouse Gas Center.
Thank you, Adil, and welcome everyone, and Gianpaolo Balsamo. Lots of folks in the United States across academia and the federal government have been working with the WMO to organize our efforts around greenhouse gas monitoring. And this activity that we're going to bring to you today is something that the U.S. Greenhouse Gas Center have been working with our NASA and NOVA colleagues to help develop the implementation plan so that it can go forward to the WMO community for approval. So we're looking forward to hear what Dr. Balsamo has to say today. So welcome, Gianpaolo.
Thank you very much, Shanna. Thank you very much, Eddie, George. It's great to be here with you, and yeah, it's an honor for me to give this presentation to NASA CMS. So I will share my screen and ask you to confirm whether you see the slides as intended.
We are seeing the speakers mode, so we can see the notes. I don't know if you can change.
Perfect.
There you go. That's perfect.
Perfect now? Okay, yes. Perfect. So yeah, thanks so much for the opportunity to present you an overview of the Global Greenhouse Gas Watch. And it's a great opportunity to present it to this audience. And I'm Gianpaolo Balsamo, so I'm the director since January this year here for the Global Greenhouse Gas Watch. Before me, Lars Peter Richegaard has brought this program together with a great study group, which has made all the steps from the conception node, so the concept node, up to the implementation plan, which was presented was prepared earlier this year in a finished document. So I will tell you a little bit the story of these past 4 months and how we came to now, and also maybe more interestingly, where we are thinking we are going in terms of vision for the future. So you will see often this, we don't have a logo as a Global Greenhouse Gas. We use these three emojis you see on the bottom part of this slide, and a watch. So it's meant to be, you know, the three globes and a watch. So G3W in no words basically. And I will give you a little bit of background on, even if you know a lot already about the World Meteorological Organization. Well, I've joined now 1st of January, so it's my 4 months here. So the WMO is the mission is really to facilitate worldwide cooperation in the design and delivery of meteorological services, foster the rapid exchange of meteorological information, encourage research and training in meteorology. But it's not the only mandate. So United Nations has these specialized agencies. We know, everyone knows about WHO during COVID, for instance, and its important role. The WMO is tasked not only to look after the weather, but also the climate, the water, and the environment for present and future generation. The bread and butter is the weather forecasting and climate monitoring. But in the last few years, to complete really the climate action, there is a lot more focus on climate and on climate mitigation, as well as climate adaptation, so climate change adaptation. So a world where all nations, especially the most vulnerable, are more resilient to the socio-economic impact of extreme weather, climate, water, and other environmental events is really the vision. And protect life and property, safeguarding environment, contributing to sustainable development, collecting and sharing data and information. So there's lots of infrastructure work to make sure that the data is interoperable, and promoting science, infrastructure, and services, which are really also the department you find in the WMO. So the science and innovation, where a lot of the greenhouse gas work is located since 50 years of development. The infrastructure, where a lot of the data sharing effort and data standardizing effort take place, and the services, where there is really the link with the national meteorological services. And also support for policy making and capacity development are a dedicated area where we have effort in collaboration with the nations. 193 members, over 160 years history. So it's one of the longest existing United Nations agency, even before UN was formed as an international meteorological organization. So how do we drive change? So I use this slide because we hear in modern terms, we hear a lot the term digital twin, and it's really in the weather world. Maybe we didn't use this term, but we had already this concept since a long time with modeling and data simulation. And what you see here is an iconic image from GOES 16, a composite of the first 3 channels for September 2017, where you see a number of tropical cyclones aligned and directed towards the US coast. And you see on the right-hand side a forecast for 18 hours into the future, corresponding to the same time of the satellite image from GOES 16, and produced with the same radiative transfer model. And therefore, you see the simulated imagery very, very similar to the satellite imagery. So this is a concept of digital twin. To me, it speaks to what a digital twin can provide in the context of weather prediction and maybe climate reanalysis, provided computational power is available to run these models. This is a 2.5 kilometer model, so it requires a very large supercomputer. Actually, was realized, the very first simulation were realized thanks to a collaboration between ECMWF and US, so were run on Summit supercomputer. So this is to say that, you know, being able to reproduce satellite images and being able to assimilate this data will enable to characterize the Earth system in a trustable way, and way beyond just the weather. So, and this is really what we think could be the driver of the greenhouse gas monitoring. There are two important flagships that WMO has brought forward in recent years, and you will hear very often to talk about the early warning for all flagship, which in a nutshell is really this described by the desire and the target to provide to every person on Earth a protection for life-saving early warning system by 2027. So it's really designed to provide warning dissemination, enhanced preparedness and response capabilities, disaster risk knowledge, and detection, observation, monitoring, analysis, and forecasting of hazard. There are a number of supporting mechanisms from early warning for all, and we could say that, you know, this has been over many years the bread and butter of the World Meteorological Organization. So it's really it's basically doing better and making sure that nobody is left behind in providing early warning for all. What is instead, we can say that there is a lot of lesson learned in for what concerns the weather, with the interaction of the WMO and the National Hydrological Met Services, so NMHSs, as we often use acronyms to refer. And the World Weather Watch is a very well-known program which basically join monitoring, prediction, and communication of weather information, including providing forecast and co-develop sectoral services together with the member state, and making sure there is interoperability of observation and data product. There is a lot of lesson learned there, and I would say this is one of the advantages of WMO heritage in going forward and develop a global greenhouse gas watch, which is my next slide. So in a nutshell, the global greenhouse gas watch flagship aims at responding to the United Nations sustainability call via climate action, in particular climate change mitigation, for the goal of climate neutrality. So what we intend by climate neutrality is the stabilization of climate change due to greenhouse gases. So we know that at present around 50% of the human activity emission of greenhouse gases is reabsorbed by nature, and the Paris Agreement has an implementation plan through an enhanced transparency framework and 5-year cycle of national determined contribution and global stocktake to reach this target. For Europe and US is foreseen for 2050. For other countries, for instance, for China is more 2060. But this is really the vision for making sure the climate action as a long-term goal in climate change mitigation up to climate neutrality. And this has been the driver really for the design of what we call the G3W master plan, or the long-term vision, which is articulated in 3 phases. The first one is for the next 4 years, so 2024, 2027, and it is the implementation and pre-operational phase. This is followed by an initial operational phase, and particularly devoted to the global stocktake 2, and then followed by enhanced operational phases. The wording is chosen also to recall the enhanced transparency framework. So the fact that an operational system going forward can ensure information similarly to what the weather enterprise has been able to achieve, and through partnership across several services and organization and research and operations across the world. This is a vision for the greenhouse gases, so that there can be research and more systematic operational effort working together in a cycle. And this enhanced operational phase is foreseen going forward after 2050 or mid-century, when climate neutrality is a target for the Paris Agreement. So we have also in the plan, which was redacted by 35 experts, chaired by two co-chairs, one from US, Professor Greg Carmichael from the Iowa University. Greg is also on the line. I just saw him connecting. And Dr. Vincent Puck from Europe, from Copernicus Services, who have chaired, as I said, 35 experts, and helped to put together this implementation plan, which was openly discussed at an open review and was presented very recently to our members, so to the Infrastructure Commission intergovernmental session less than 2 weeks ago. The plan over the next 4 years is costed. This was requested to us from the Congress in about $1 billion, of which 70% is foreseen to be devoted to surface observation, 29% of the investment to integration of observation, both the satellite-based and the surface-based observation, and 1% for coordination at WMO. It is foreseen to integrate the working structure of the WMO, in particular the expert teams, which are part of our standing committees, which are really permitting WMO to function. An advisory group, which will be formed in more or less in a month's time, when the Executive Council will hopefully give the green light. And it will have synergies very similar to how the weather enterprise works. So, for instance, the WIGOS is the WMO Integrated Global Observing System. The WIPS is the modeling component, and the WIS is the data sharing infrastructure component. So the synergy between these three big legacy components of WMO is very important. And for the governance, it's very, very clear that the infrastructure, the research, and the services will work jointly in order to guarantee G3W governance. The what and the how and the why is summarized in this slide for G3W. I show you a simulation of 1 year of CO2 that we have done with my group in my previous job at the European Weather Center, ECMWF, between 2016 and 2020, a project which was devoted to develop a prototype for a CO2 human emission monitoring system, so the CHE project. What you see is a simulation of CO2, and I know there's a great simulation also produced by colleagues in NASA, which was inspiration for us to realize this video at ECMWF. The how the G3W will fill critical information gap is really, this video is to give a sense of an integration of Earth observation and modeling, probably very much also integrating the latest technology of artificial intelligence, because it will enable to reach higher resolution at reduced computational cost, and with the scope of reducing the uncertainty in assessing the efficacy of climate action. So what we mean by that is there is already in the Paris Agreement, there is an article dedicated to to carbon markets and dedicated to the realization of the Paris Agreement vision. And precision is really, precision and timeliness are really requirements where we can get inspired by the weather forecasting, where precision and timeliness has been the guiding light for half of the century, I would say, in the history of numerical weather prediction. The how the G3W will support the Paris Agreement is towards a timely policy relevant information, including greenhouse gas concentration and fluxes, allowing to assess both the natural and human influence on the climate change. And the why, we know that we need an Earth system approach for accessing the global greenhouse gases, because there is an interplay of the natural component and the emissions by human activities, and the physics is the driver, and not really the pledges or the claimed offset that are currently very often discussed in economic terms. So we need a measuring support for the nation using science and technology based on Earth observation. There are, in the plan in action, there are a milestone in 2023, a milestone and a recent one in 2024, which I mentioned, that gave basically a lot of support to the G3W, the Global Greenhouse Gas Watch. First of all, you see in the picture here, in the upper part of the slide, the global greenhouse gas monitoring symposium, which took place here in February, end of January, beginning of February in 2023, where there were 700 scientists, 200 on site and 500 online, registered for a WMO symposium dedicated to greenhouse gas. This gave a strong input to the World Meteorological Congress, which was thereafter in May. That gave the green light to G3W to proceed to development. And then COP28 gave also an important step because it was noted by the Substaff 59. And this for us was a successful closure for COP28 for as far as G3W was concerned. A recent milestone in 2024 is this INFCOM 3, which I put some information in the announcements, a link to the INFCOM 3, which is the intergovernmental session for WMO, where all the infrastructure experts from the members are participating and are commenting on our documents. And they have commented in particular to the implementation plan, providing several important inputs that have been incorporated in the implementation plan, which will now go to the Executive Council, as I mentioned, in June. And this is the long-term vision in a slide. So the three phases I mentioned: the implementation pre-operational phase, the initial operational phase from 2028, and the enhanced operational phase from the 2030s onwards. Here, the sketch show the CO2, but obviously there are three specific gases that are object of attention: CO2, methane, and nitrous oxide, so N2O. In the center, you see the vision of the global, the WIGOS, really the World Integrated Information of the Global Observing System for the weather. And this integrate, geostationary and polar satellites, airplane measurements, balloons, surface-based, ocean-based. So this is really the weather enterprise is underpinning infrastructure as the observation. The observation are linked to the progress that the weather enterprise has guaranteed. And then on the right-hand side, you see the UN family of organization. One of the important or key stakeholders, which is the UNFCCC, both the COP and the Substaff bodies. And then, the WMO through its infrastructure meaning to support the nation in their reporting to UNFCCC. And you see a column on the right-hand side, which is very important, is the public-private partnership for a plan that has also ambition to respond to the Paris Agreement in the times given to us by IPCC. It's important to mobilize both public and private partnerships for achieving agile, at the same time as sustainable plans. And how we do that? So there is a lot of synchronizing work in the G3W. So first of all, synchronizing with national and regional effort. This is something we have discussed, for instance, with Shana Combley when she visited the WMO a bit more than a month ago. And we discussed that there are three important realities projected here on the slide. So for instance, the Copernicus program in Europe, the US greenhouse gas measurement, monitoring and information system, and the Japanese NIES. So again, a multi-institute effort in the three cases. These are multi-institute efforts that are aiming really to ramp up rapidly the information necessary to support a greenhouse gas information system. There is good alignment, the ambition is really to have efficient communication and good alignment between these three well-identified fast-track developments, and be able to produce, for instance, global consensus product, of which, for example, WMO provide a clear success story for the state of climate. If you look at the state of climate from WMO, this is produced with data provided from US provider, European provider, Japanese provider, other reanalysis. They are compile and produce this global state of climate. And this is really designed to give visibility to each one of the products. At the same time, provide a consensus estimate. For instance, that's how we could announce 2023 being 1.45 degree warmer than pre-industrial, looking at the consensus across climate reanalysis. So another important synchronization activities is with space agencies. And here you see a slide and name two important coordination action. The one from CEOS, the Committee on Earth Observation and Satellite, and the one from CGMS, the Coordination Group of Meteorological Satellites. What you see is here is on the left-hand side, you see a carbon dioxide populated slide with a lot of satellites, which are, some of them are already flying, some will be flying. And on the right-hand side, you see them clustered in two categories, the mappers of greenhouse gas and the spotters, being two different applications, so to identify emission and to really quantify and map global emission. And this will enter this data through the information sharing system. So ideally, the WIS2 system, they will be shared globally using the same platform and same infrastructure that WMO is using for satellite weather data. So as you see, that the vertical line is the present in both mappers and spotters list of satellite, and you see there's lots more coming in the future in terms of satellite. This slide is to mention that what a third level of synchronization is with the internal mechanism with which weather observation, weather models, and weather data management are processed. And also showing this research to operation cycle and operation to research cycle. So what is really encouraging to see for weather, that the fact that there is an operational system creates continuous stimulus for research. So the advent of operational services is increasing the research opportunities, because there is a feedback from the operation, from the user back into research need. And this generates new research opportunities. And this slide also is how WMO see the long-term goals in terms of products, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of services. So obviously the Greenhouse Gas Watch will also have a component of services once the research and the infrastructure will be growing consistently. Nothing happened without a sustainability plan, also in terms of funding opportunity. And we are lucky that at WMO there is a lot of attention also on the resource mobilization, with 3 funding mechanisms for G3W. An initial fund, which is the one that created the position of director for this new flagship, and provided me with some initial funding for G3W. Then there is a dedicated trust fund with already 2 champion nations who have donated in 2023, and there will be soon a new call for donors to all public and private sources in 2024, after the council will hopefully give the green light. And the 2 nations I can name and praise, it's Denmark and Germany, who have already decided to support the initial phase. And typically for WMO that means workshop and coordination staff, so staff in the G3W in WMO Secretariat. And there is a third vehicle that we are designing or co-designing with Financial Institute in order to permit to associate to green transition funds and have, for instance, when there is a large investment in green transition or green economy, how this investment will monitor progress in greenhouse gas reduction, could be via supporting the infrastructure, in particular the surface-based infrastructure. And this is really inspired by the World Bank. So there is there is a link to a World Bank paper that explains how the resource mobilization can work efficiently when there is the right projects with a strong public-private framework. So there is a return of investment, there is a possibility to engage with the private sector, and there is also some private sector comfort in terms of the return of investment not being in 50 years' time, but being with shorter horizons. The G3W sustainability has a focus on the region. So this is something I try to explain very clearly. Is not to create an hypertrophic coordination. So the coordination is only 1% of the funding, and the real main dish is observation, surface observation. We know that the Global Atmospheric Watch, so the GO station, count something like 221 stations with greenhouse gas capability. However, the funding does not very often belongs to secure, streamlined operational funding. So G3W is really to bring the operational component to that. And it's all these satellite costs are excluded from the implementation plan, because they have specialized ministerials, they have their own budget, and they have their own return of investment already with the companies who are implementing the construction, for instance, of satellite from a satellite agency. So central coordination, as I said, is estimated in 1%. And we have three scenarios in the implementation plan. Coordination is also with satellite agencies. So you see here photos of from the first quarter of this year when we had this high-level consultative meeting on the high-level policy on satellite matters. So this was an historic annual meeting that stopped for nearly 5 years due to COVID and also due to reorganizational matters. So this is something that WMO has restarted in the new era with Celeste Saulo that you see here, our president Michel Jean, and our head of the space program Natalia Donoho, and Nir Stav next to her, which is my senior director, and on the right hand side here. It was a very successful meeting, which can help also as a cross coordination between the big discussion ongoing in CEOs and CGMS. So it was very, very well received by the participant to the meeting, to have again a return of this this meeting series. So, and this comes to nearly, well, close to the end of my talk. This is where we are right now with the Global Greenhouse Gas Implementation Plan, progress up to the second quarter of 2024. We had a complete draft written very quickly, going from the advanced draft that Lars Peter Rischekar has put together at the end of last year. We completed the draft in January. We opened up to a open community review, which lasts around 10 days. So I think I've sent something like 1,000 emails to share this, and we got something like 70 suggestions for improvement, and that was consolidated in a document on the 7th of February. And then we initiated the ITER to consolidate the document, translated in the 6 languages of WMO, and have it presented at INFCOM 3. INFCOM 3 approved the documents on the 15th of April 2024, and this actually on that week it was discussed on the Monday and approved on the Friday. So with a lot of work during that week to uptake a series of very good comments on how to improve the governance, how to improve the capacity building, and the gap filling of technological differences in the sensors. This is where a lot of the comments were concentrated. So from the concept note, there is a first part of a success story up to the INFCOM, but this is only the beginning. And if you look at the implementation plan, you will see that it's clustered like a big project with actions which are clustered in building blocks, the observing system, the modeling system, the prior information, so whatever is available from inventories, the data management, which is very important for the interoperability, the research needs, which are even if this is an operational plan, it's very well recognized that you cannot have an operational service without generating new research needs and identify the highest priority research needs for this operational system to be fit for purpose. And then user engagement and uptake, identify product requirements, provide recommendation to use the G3W output, and obviously integrate the availability of Earth observation modeling system through integration, model data fusion, artificial intelligence. There's a set of expert team that will be populated in order to help implement the plan. A capacity building and technology gap, as I mentioned, this was really brought forward also by INFCOM 3, and it's very important that there is an history, I would say, from WMO perspective to build capacity for the weather center, and this is really what's happening in the early warning for all as well. So I would say there's a lot of credibility on the capacity building. But greenhouse gas is in many ways much more complex in terms of observation requirement, in terms of sensor ecosystems. So there's a lot of work to be done. The plan is there. The plan needs to become something more than an implementation plan, and aligning the capacity development to the big program of WMO is surely one action. So Resolution 36. But we need obviously to develop the plan together with the stakeholder. And this is one of the last slide I will present. It's to show you maybe a pilot, or among the pilots, there is an opportunity from the monitoring of methane. This is a new animation provided by Copernicus, so by my colleague Richard Engelen in CAMS. What you see here is the evolution of methane. Again, a very high resolution simulation at 9 kilometers with the chemistry necessary to have the methane cycle, and you see the sources and variation according to weather. Again, it's a demonstration that the image or the vision of a digital twin, which is going forward for the weather, and particularly to tackle extreme weather, it's something that could be in an Earth system approach guide also the greenhouse gas watch. What you see now in the upper part is not any longer the Paris Agreement, but you see the Global Methane Pledge, which has already 155 countries. We know that methane has also a strong mandate from IPCC to be reduced rapidly in order to maintain the carbon budget calculated for the Paris Agreement goal. So we definitely see the methane as an important pilot with well-identified players or collaborators in UNEP IMEO, Global Methane Hub, Climate Clean Air Coalition, Global Methane Initiative, and G3W, who is looking also at methane from a climate change point of view with the role of the cryosphere. And we know that there might be a big role played by the permafrost melting in the release of methane. Communication, this is my last slide. It's very important to not only to coordinate, but also communicate where we are along the way in order to be inclusive, to be capable of reach consensus. WMO is science-driven, but is also consensus-based, and this is one of the big strengths of WMO, the capacity of consult a large number of experts, consult the member states, so the 193 members. And in order to have an efficient consultation, communication is key. So for INFCOM 3, there are something like 20 articles that have been published, and I was supporting together with my team this effort in order to make sure that we do have an efficient communication plan. And yeah, I'm very happy to be here today. Maybe I have two messages to really open up to the Q&A. So the G3W implementation plan approval already at INFCOM 3 and endorsement hopefully at the Executive Council provide a vision for the global greenhouse gas monitoring. And then what's next? An implementation plan is not a roadmap, so it misses a lot of detail. It misses a Gantt chart with a precise split of the activity with also who does what and where things are going to happen, given that this is a distributed plan and needs global concerted effort. And roadmaps activity have already started in CEOS. We know we were talking about with CGMS as well. We know the Ocean Group is also thinking about roadmaps for the ocean observation part. To my from my point of view, the United States contribution to G3W will be absolutely crucial. And there are also two benefits that G3W could bring to the US contribution. The first one is a greater and more timely access to greenhouse gas interoperable observation, both in situ and satellite based. And when we think about satellite, could be also, you know, private sector through public purchase. So there are good examples, for instance, for radio occultation where this is happening. We know, for instance, NOAA is also purchasing some greenhouse gas data from GSAT. So there is a business model to be considered, and there are discussions there to make data more accessible, timely, and as input to national systems. So this level of coordination can help that. Also because the concentration in one part of the world may surely comes from another part of the world where having access to observation will improve fluxes and concentration. So there is really a global dimension that needs to be looked at, and that's what WMO can help with. And the second big advantage is greater impact of the monitoring information. We know that greenhouse gas are also sensitive information, and having something similar to the global state of climate, where multiple stakeholders from different parts of the world provide their global product, the global product get benchmarked, it gets fusion or provide a consolidated multi-dataset product, will enhance the visibility of each of the national global effort, and that will help to face global stakeholders. We know that UN, UNFCCC, IPCC, and both state and non-state actors will have greater sense of trust for a product which is a multi-dataset product, and this is what we hear also from carbon markets. The reliability of carbon data will be absolutely essential to build a carbon market. And that's all from me. I thank you very much for your attention, and I would welcome any questions.
Thank you, Gianpaolo. Very thorough presentation, and thank you for the connection with NASA and the CMS program. I'm gonna start with a couple of questions that we have in the chat, and Chana can also jump in. We'll let also give anyone that wants to make a direct question to Gianpaolo to have the opportunity. So early warning systems, Gianpaolo, Brad asked if you can give an example of what such a warning may be and how greenhouse gas observations, as opposed to temperature, can uniquely contribute to this warning.
So early warning system at the moment, it's really a flagship in the area of climate change adaptation. So those two initiatives, so Early Warning for All and Global Greenhouse Gas Watch, are seen as complementary. So the early warning system will help the infrastructure to measure locally weather, hydrology, and environmental quantities. It's not per se dedicated to greenhouse gas, but we know that greenhouse gas is it's easier to, for instance, to extend the observation platform, adding sensor of greenhouse gas if there are already sensor for weather and air quality, for instance. Air quality is a clear example of early warning for all. We know that we have to be mindful of air quality in big cities, and that's affect everybody's health. So it's in the category of early warning for all. When we go to greenhouse gas, this is a different flagship, and it's climate change mitigation. That's why we often consider, early warning for all and Global Greenhouse Gas Watch complementary climate action flagship. One is more of the present urgency, of saving lives that are exposed to extreme events. The other one is another urgency, but it's to mitigate the climate change of the future, and that requires monitoring the greenhouse gas, because we can't really manage reduction of greenhouse gas without an efficient monitoring system that will tell us that the CO2 growth rate is stabilizing and then is abated, emissions are abated, and concentration stabilized. That's just to clarify, it's two flagship. There is a complementarity between the two.
Thank you. Chana?
Thank you, Gianpaolo. If we're satisfied, we can move on to the next question. Yeah, okay. I see a comment here from Kevin Bowman. He says, great talk. You referenced the figure in the OCO2 MIP activity by Brendan Byrne et al. How do you see that as a prototype for G3W? And could you elaborate on the mechanisms by which the research community informs the research, WMO research, and in turn G3W?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and Kevin and I discuss often now. It's going to be essential. The research community is essential. I would say that what we have as a plan is written by the research community with support of services that are being developed. So the Copernicus service is a good example, for instance. So there is a strong research component, and there are operational budget which ensure long-term sustainability. How are we going to work? I think it's internally to WMO, there is a very strong collaboration between the GAW, the Global Atmospheric Watch, and this is also mirroring the fact that one of the co-chair, Professor Greg Carmichael, has really very strong connection with the GAW, and for instance the other co-chair, Evan Saripak, has brought the other side of the story, how our research activity can benefit from an operational line of work, which will absorb the sustainability aspect. I think you want to imagine a future where you have a research satellite launched, and then that will measure data over several years, and then there is the vision of say, okay, now we don't want a gap between this climate data record and the next satellite. So we want to have sustainability to thanks to an operational mindset, an operational vision that will try not to create gap in the climate data record, and try to provide continuity, stability to the observing system. We know this is a problem also, talking, for instance, with the PI of FluxNet, for instance. Many PI struggle to maintain the funding, and having an operational kind of status will help the nation to maintain station which have maybe 20-30 years of data. So we shouldn't be considering this station as having to justify continuously existence. These are operational assets for greenhouse gas. So that's how I see the slow transition between research and operation. In terms of competencies, I think it's the same community. So it's you can see it on the European side. The scientists who are behind Copernicus are the scientists who are coming from academia or going back to academia after experiencing at ECNWF or at EUMETSAT. So there is, I would say, a strong collaboration between operational center and academia. So that's how I see it. It's not a transition, but a joint venture between research and more operational infrastructure. So for the weather, it's sufficient to look at the weather. I think the weather is a good example. how to get there and how quickly to get to this kind of enterprise where there is very often more research generated by operation. This will take a while, and a few of our call, Kevin, to discuss this.
Thank you for that. Idil, would you like to do the next one?
Yes, I think we have two more questions. So we have a question from Brendan. Are there any plans to measure or integrate into models the carbon isotopes of CO2 or methane?
Right. So I think at the moment isotopes are not featuring as a requirement. So I think this is where the research component will continue to innovate, and the possibility to really attribute CO2 from looking at isotopes is still very much a territory of research. That for WMO means all the GAO, the Global Atmospheric Watch community, the IGIS, the Global Integrated Greenhouse Gas Information System that Phil DeCola with my colleague Oksana Tarasova has been following. I see Greg in the line. Greg, do you think I could ask you to fill in this?
Sure. Thank you, and I'll be very brief. Certainly, isotopes are really critical in the implementation plan, and in the first phase, we're really focused on net fluxes because we don't think we have the capabilities right now to set up an operational attribution or parsing of the anthropogenic and the natural components. But certainly the isotopes are critical to that, and part of the implementation plan is to really focus on developing that capability so that that can be introduced in the operational when it's appropriate. So that's where we stand that. But we understand it's really important, and that's going to move forward. And just briefly, I could just add that to Kevin's question, in terms of how engaging the broader research communities, I think there's two ways. One is that through the existing research programs, which are broad-based, the GAO, World Weather Research Program, World Climate Research Program, we will be coordinating. They will be very heavily involved in their communities, will be heavily involved in the implementation plan. And clearly, as soon as we get the green light, we will be organizing critical workshops that are focused on the key areas that will be like we've done in the development, really getting at the broad community and seeking focused input into that. So I think great questions. So
definitely excellently answered by Greg, and thank you very much. It's really we are at the pivotal moment of approval of the plan, but there is a lot of work behind, but a lot more ahead of us in terms of being able. Also, if you look at the products of this first phase, it's really looking at 1 by 1 degree products monthly. So thinking really at fluxes and concentration that can support the global stock take more than the full needs of the greenhouse gas service, which will be much bigger than just the global stock take. So.
Thank you, Gianpaolo and Greg. And one more question. We just have time for one more question. Chana, if you want.
Sure. So we have a question here from Christian Morgan. She says, with regards to your informal communications via the quarterly blog that you described, what is the outreach scope from this type of communication? And are there any plans to expand informal writings to increase public citizen scientist audiences?
I think it's very important to have a different level of communication and make sure that when we have informal kind of blog, or there is one that came out from WMO just 3 days ago. When is simpler language, we have to make sure that the information is preserved, the robustness is preserved, that there are links that can allow to go deeper, and that by having more citizen scientists, citizen science, we don't dilute too much the content. So this is what we are trying to do together with the communication expert here at WMO, to have multiple levels of deepening of the information by having further readings and links that can allow to go and consult the full implementation plan, of, for instance, or the workshop reports. So I'd be happy to share in the chat the link to the last blog, which has exactly this level of communication. So the scope is really to facilitate sharing information, facilitate the engagement, and to keep the information flow as active as possible. But as Greg mentioned, there will be critical workshop for engaging with the science community. That's for us is the important communication is to make sure that there is the frontier science is communicated in workshop, and then those workshop reports becomes much more broadcasting knowledge that we can share with the wider public. So, but we are helped by the expert on the communication in order to have, we provide the content and they provide their expertise on how to increase the outreach.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Actually, communication, outreach, and resource mobilization are, they tell us that they are very much linked. So if you are visible and if your communication is compelling, is also makes the life easier for the resource mobilization expert to organize meetings with donors, with philanthropists. So yeah, it helps also on the resource mobilization. That's why there is you might have noticed a little bit more outreach on G3W in the last few months, because it helps resource mobilization.
Thank you so much, Gianpaolo, for your time and being able to share all this with us. This has been wonderful. As you can see from some of the comments, everybody thinks it was a wonderful talk and with very exciting developments to come.
Thank you very much, Anna. It's a great pleasure for me to have this at CMS. So thanks so much for the opportunity to all of you, and for the great questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Gianpaolo, and thank you, Chana. And just stay tuned. We're going to continue this webinar series between the U.S. Greenhouse Gas Center and the NASA CMS program, so you'll receive more information about upcoming webinars. Thank you again, everyone. See you, and thank you, Gianpaolo.
Thank you, everyone. See you soon. Bye.